Hello, my name is Robert Miller and this is lesson 8 of the Beatitudes study, Mourn. Now, lesson 1, the first of the Mourn ones was lesson 7 where we water skied and we looked at 3 different ways of loss, dreams, health, loved ones. And we did point 1 and 2 because point 3 is what he chose, the person I was working with. So I choose, he chooses, you choose. And so as we submerge, we look at the loss of the loved one. And so in lesson 8, the image in the thumbnail and in the branded lesson is of an empty subway carriage, and just with a napkin on the floor, the napkin of knowing. And in why it is where are they gone? The departed. Left behind is the heart of grief for lost loved ones. They're gone, they're away, you're left behind. And so the image of the emptiness of traveling with the left behind. I'm terrible at this. And you know the great thing about that for you when I'm your teacher is I found the things in my 20s that I just took naturally and was great at as a minister. I was terrible in my 30s at teaching to other people. And the things that I had to really fight for in my 20s to get a grip of, but I find those so much easier to teach because I'd had to take them apart in my 20s. And in my 30s, the things I was really gifted at, I had to learn to take them apart and try to figure out why the rest of you were struggling so much. So, poverty of spirit, I had to learn how to teach you go to the back of the line because I had a Marine drill sergeant just pulling me back and I'm like, where's your Marine drill sergeant? Just let him work. And it's like, I don't have one of those. And it's like, oh, so let me dismantle it. How do you take it apart? How do you do it if you don't have a gift? Well, mourning, I don't have a gift. And yet I found myself being the man standing in front of everyone else in a role called minister, officiating funerals for people who were left behind, who were grieving this eternal being. You see, this is the heartbreak for humans, is no matter what our theory of everything is, we have lost someone that is significant. That we have lost someone that, wow, it seems to expand beyond time. That's what I mean by eternal. Now, my theory of everything, my mythology of Christianity says that eternal means forever, that my consciousness transforms into something else beyond the event horizon of time and space, and I become something more, but continuing to hold my consciousness. I'm away. Riley's poem. I have that poem read at every funeral I officiate. I cannot say that he is dead. He's just away. In 2020, in the activation narrative, heartbreakingly, one of the men who came to sit with me in the 3 days as I waited to fly to my father, and those days, I think it was about 2 days to get an international flight in the middle of COVID. I had 3 governments that had to sign off on me and my wife getting through international flights and borders. August 2020, this man, Rich, sat by me, and he was dying of cancer, and we were pretty sure he wasn't going to make the year. And then in December, I buried him. I officiated his funeral remotely via Zoom. It was awful. I officiated my father's funeral outside in the rain at a graveyard, social distancing. It was awful. How can someone as stunted as I am, the Gulliver that's little and all the giants are here with gifts, how could I show up knowing there's that subway carriage empty? They're away and you've lost the eternal. How do I exercise something I don't have any gift for and show up and be there and have a capacity to grieve with you, to sit with you, to comfort you? I first have to learn how to do it for me, and I don't have this. My Irish culture doesn't have. We have this extraordinarily deep, millennia deep cultural framework and prosthetic help to support grief when we lose an eternal one. Is we are an incredibly superstitious people, and what we do is just unbelievable. Is we have a 3-day wake. where everybody comes and they talk about the departed, and the departed is in the room. Their remains are in the best room of the house in an open casket, and people just wander in and out and talk to them and say goodbye and have that time, while everybody else is in the living areas just eating, sometimes drinking, and a lot of sarcasm. And we have these really strict systems for supporting as a prosthetic or lack of gift for grief, or lack of grief for mourning. Is we have all this structure. When someone dies here in America and I'm here, I go, sorry for your trouble. And then I move away and be really quiet and private. And they kind of feel like, does he not care? I go, oh, no. That's how you do it in Ireland. It's an incredibly private event. And so my father had died. I was in America. All my family were in Ireland doing the Irish prosthetic mourning. We don't have it natural, so we have a prosthetic limb of all this structure and all this superstition to keep arm's length death. And we're going to talk about that in point 2 in a second. But it's because the departed is departed. They're away. There's an empty seat, and it's like tragic when there's an empty seat, and we don't know what to do with it. So I had to learn to exercise the absence of the gift, and I had to do the work of going, okay, there is a loss here of an eternal being. They're not with us anymore, so they're not here. They're departed. They're away. And so how do I enter into that? And here's the challenge, and it's another one of those Christian sort of twisty things, religious twisty things. A lot of theory of everything mythologies, whatever one you have difficulty with grieving openly the loss, because we're told they've gone to a better place, and it's part of the comforting is they've gone to a better place. They're departed to heaven. They're in a better place. And for some, it's like my father dying at 79. He had been in pain. He had been in assisted living. He had been immobilized for quite a long time. It was a mercy. When Rich went, it wasn't a mercy, man. He was in a prime. It was just a tragedy. But either way, what do I do when they're away and I go to the being they went to? And in my mythology, and however you understand away, there's somewhere they went to. What do you do when you have to go beyond the event horizon of time and space to the away and get comfort? Am I allowed to grieve? They're in a better place. Why am I allowed to do it? Would I take them back? No, my dad is in a better place. I don't want him back. He was hurting. But there's a loss. Rich was dying of cancer. It was incredibly painful. I'm glad he had freedom from the pain. But I lost him. He's not there in the coffee shop anymore. There's a loss. And so if you don't have the gift of mourning, you've got to come and get a hug. You got to come and say an eternal being is lost. So I need to take that eternal loss. And here's why I want you to hear this. The eternity part is the deep part. It's what makes the train seat empty. If it's just transitory and I'm here and I'm gone and time doesn't matter, then what's the problem? They lived their life, it's over, move on. Except for you're still in time and they're not anymore. You're still in time and they're not anymore. That's what makes it eternal. Whether you believe in my superstitious Santa Clausy heaven or not, you're still stuck in time and space and they're not anymore. And that separation from them through the event horizon of time and space means they're not with you anymore. And they've moved beyond time and space to something else. And that else is what I call eternal. It's beyond time and space. So whatever your theory of everything, the grief of losing one who becomes away from time and space, we need to be able to go to a place beyond time and space to grieve. And so the gift of mourning is to take it beyond the now and say, I need this to go somewhere beyond now. Because they're there and I'm here and I need a bridge between us so that I can go beyond now with my grief. This is profoundly difficult. To be able, if you don't have a natural gift, to say, I feel the grief of their loss. They're not here. They're away beyond time and space. For me, what I do is I recognize the need to go beyond time and space. I need to be able to envision them somewhere else so that I can accept the separation. This is the art, the work, if you don't have a gift, of going to the being that is beyond time and space. So for me, that's my Santa Claus Jesus that lives in heaven beyond time and space forever. I can go to that being and say, I need comfort because they're with you and they're not with me, and that's not fair. That hurts. And I can receive comfort beyond. Now, I can also interact with people who are here and share the grief of they're there and we're here and it hurts, and be comforted beyond. And it is beautiful to be able to have that duality of they are there and I am here, and I can accept comfort. I don't have a natural gift for this, but I go beyond, to the beyond time and space, and I say they are there and I am here and it hurts. And I have lost one that is eternal now. Okay, point 2. I really want you to feel that one. Point 2 is this feels like an assault. When you lose someone you love, even if it's a relief they're finally out of pain, it feels like an assault, like an attack, like there's an enemy involved in this. And you know what? I've always been amazed. When I began to study the theology of Christianity, my mythology, your mythology probably if you're doing this, is we personify death. We made death into a character. We kind of gave it a human form, and we personified it. And, you know, and you got the Grim Reaper showing up with the scythe, and we personified death. And Terry Pratchett is this British author of just Discworld. My wife loves him. He does just sarcasm at a beautiful level. He's an amazing writer, and he's passed away. He's now beyond. But he brought death to life in his stories as a real character with real feelings and thoughts and ideas and a purpose. When death is personified in the Bible, it becomes an enemy. It is not something natural. It is something unnatural. It is not something benign, but something actively, aggressively against you. And this is really helpful as we process mourning, that it feels like an assault. Even if you now say to me, Robert, come on, you're believing in the Tooth Fairy. Now you're getting arch enemies, that eternal being that hates you. This alien being has destroyed your family member. Come on, Robert, you're a smart guy. I go, time out. Okay, you think my mythology is just Santa Claus, the Tooth Fairy. But there is meaning beyond the magic of the Tooth Fairy. And I'm teaching my son that now because we lost the Tooth Fairy. Well, you may say, okay, death personified as the devil. Yeah, Robert, that's just the Tooth Fairy, big man. You know, there's no monsters out there. Except for when you lose someone suddenly, like my friend Rich, it feels like an assault. It feels like there was an intentionality about it, an attack by an enemy. It feels like death is real and conscious and intentionally attacking me, sentient. And so it's really helpful to own that. Even if your theory of everything goes, psychologically, factually, that's not true. Scientifically, there is no alien being out there that causes death. It's just a natural biological thing. Great, but to mourn is to also own the fact that it does feel like an attack. Okay, there's the loss of an eternal being there beyond, but owning the pain that it feels like an assault, it feels like an attack. One of the things I do as a minister is allow that feeling of assault to be there in the experience. Both as we prepare for the funeral service, as we do the funeral service, and as we commit the person to the beyond and allow people to move into the grief process, to allow to be angry, to allow to feel like you did something there to me, against me. And if we have nothing but biology, it is very difficult to mourn through the anger of the grief process. When we personify death and we feel like it's an enemy attacking us, we can enter into that grief of anger, of feeling attacked, of feeling wounded by the other. And what is that other? Death? Well, if death is just biological and we all come to our end and we all got an expiration date, it is hard to enter into the anger you actually feel as you mourn when there is no enemy to be angry at. I've known people to be angry at the dead, to be angry at other living people. I was at a funeral where two brothers beat each other until they were bloody and then had to sit in the church service afterwards. They didn't have an enemy to be angry at, so they hit each other. Let me say that again. They didn't have an enemy to be angry at, so they hit each other. My wife and I were at that funeral. Thank God was not the minister, and I think the minister missed something there, or they would have had an outlet. And so I'm going to just be honest. I think the minister missed something at that funeral. They should have had help to be angry at death, and they wouldn't have hit each other. When we cannot mourn and direct our anger at someone, we tend to lash out at someone else. And so personifying death is an incredibly helpful way to mourn. Now, some of you have a natural gift, and death just is real, and you're like, I hate you, death, and you're really angry at death. And the devil took my baby, and my devil took my wife, and the devil took my father. And it is real, and it's just somehow tactile to you, and so you can be angry at the devil, or fates, or whatever, and you can be angry at the universe. And you've personified it, and it becomes the Grim Reaper, and you can be angry. And then for some of us, that's more difficult. We don't have a natural capacity to be angry at the Grim Reaper. And I'm really sitting on point 2, I hope you feel this, is they are away. And I need somewhere to be angry at. I need someone or something to be angry at. Or like those brothers, you end up beating on each other. You end up attacking. You end up having lots of conflict under the surface at funerals. This is where a lot of ugly comes out when death happens. When we lose the eternal one and we don't have an enemy to project that anger on, we sometimes often lash out at each other. And that's where all the frustrations of life, when they weren't away, begin to surface. And we attack one another, usually the people closest to us. So the gift of mourning allows us, whether we have a natural gift of beatitude or the capacity through exercising it, to say, hey, let's be angry at something other than us. And as a minister, I've sat with people who are just really furious at themselves. I mean, they're just angry at themselves because this person died. So you're angry at the dead person, you're angry at someone else, or you're angry at yourself because you don't have this enemy to project that anger onto. So mourning requires an external enemy, and death is perfect in personification in the Christian belief system. Finally, we need an eternal being to comfort us. Now, I hinted at that when I take my grief to the beyond and say, they're with you and they're not with me, and that's really hard. Coming to something beyond you for comfort. Now, I'm going to say this, and this might offend you. For some people, Jesus is Santa Claus, and they can't go to Santa Claus for help. They're adults, and they're in grief, and they don't need you to get defensive that they think of Jesus as Santa Claus. I've had family who are not Christian. I have officiated funerals where members of the family, are really not religious. They are deeply antagonistic to Christianity. And to try to impose upon them the structures of my belief system and demand that they believe in Santa Claus, to seek comfort from Santa Claus, to believe the stories of Santa Claus, and to take comfort from those stories, is an assault on them. I become the enemy. My belief system is more important than their grief. I hate officiating funerals because of that part. That's one of the parts I hate, is I'm expected to be an avatar for my belief system that is shared by somebody in the family, hence I'm there. And yet there are, nowadays in modern society, there's just usually more people who don't share my belief system. And so to impose upon them an eternal being to seek comfort from is ludicrous. It's ludicrous. They're away. There's loss. Maybe they don't have anyone to be angry about. So I'm a perfect target now because they don't know what to do with me away. Like, wow, they're gone. I'm like, and now I'm angry. I'm not only have loss in my morning, they're away and the seat is empty. And I have this napkin saying whether I'm gifted or not, I have to mourn. No. They're away, and I have no one to be angry at, so I'm going to be angry at you, minister. Why am I going to be angry at the minister? Because they're asking me to believe in Santa Claus and go ask Santa Claus for a hug. Get away from me. It's often the nonverbal I see as a minister. I promise you, those two brothers didn't get solace from the minister saying their mother was away. That's why they hit each other. Because they weren't finding solace beyond right now. When you lose the eternal one, if you cannot breach the event horizon from the right now, which is just excruciatingly painful, and go to one that is beyond time and space, it is really difficult to mourn. My job as a minister, with the pygmy level gift of an Irish minister, and even among the Irish, I am the least gifted in mourning. I had to learn to work. Because that golden rule was going to bite me when I walked in the room. Like that minister in Ireland, probably just as inept at mourning as I am, and so hadn't offered an enemy, but equally didn't offer a friend, this eternal friend. Now, I'm going to say something again that bothers Christians who kind of want the answer to be absolute and stop offering options, Robert, is if my God sounds like Santa Claus to you, you know, the magic of Santa Claus has a meaning. You might need the big red one right now just to get through the loss. Maybe there's someone in your family, it's just Santa Claus. Why can't you hold that for a minute and allow them to access the magic of the impossible, the unreal, so that they have someone to take this to? You don't have to believe literally in a God to take it to beyond you. Science doesn't offer anything to take to. It's in the now, it's in the time and space, it's in reality. We need to step out of reality into something magical. There's an eternal being who lives outside of time and space, who's always been and always will be, and is not constrained by time, so is everywhere all the time, every minute. It's irrational, it's illogical, it doesn't work. But when we grieve and we can step outside of time and go to this being, be comforted by this being, what we find is comfort. Because we need to be away to grieve. We need to be away to grieve. They are not dead, they're just away. Away in that I have lost someone, the seat is empty. There is an enemy, it feels like an attack. I need to step beyond the logic and the rational of the now to a magical moment beyond time and space to be comforted. Whether you have gifted or not, you've got to exercise. We're going to move, and you chose point 1 to the loved one. We're going to unpack that as a treasure. Thank you very much.